Hello, I'm John Muir Laws. I'm a wildlife biologist, artist, and explorer. And I wanted to share with you today why I love this piece of art by naturalist explorer Tony Foster. I'm going to break this down in three ways: as an explorer, as a scientist, and as an artist, what I see in this picture. Let's just start with the explorer part of it. Tony Foster has gone to an exquisite coral reef. And in order to paint this, we'll see what a lot of people do. Most people, you look at some painting that they've done of a coral reef, if they have done that. What they did is they may have gone down underwater with a camera, taken some pictures, or just even looked at other people's pictures without ever really being in the place. But not Tony. No. What he did is he came to this place and got on scuba gear and a particularly heavy weight belt. So normally with scuba gear, what you're trying to do is get yourself to be neutrally buoyant so that you can go to a different place in the water column and you won't pop to the surface or you won't sink. But he had so much that he would sink to the bottom so that he could sit there and draw. Because that's what he did. He brought drawing materials underwater with him and sat there with the scuba gear on and did these studies on plastic drawing film with pencils, wax pencils, that he could put color on to those drawings. So he is doing live sketching of the coral reef underwater, and then used these notes to create this in his studio. See, that's next level. When you go down into one of these places, initially what's going to happen is all the fish there are going like, ooh, big predator, and everybody hides. But if you go down and clunk, and you wait, and you start to draw. As the scientist, Tony's choice of exploring the coral reef is really meaningful and significant. These places are critical habitats in oceans. You can think of a coral reef essentially like the nursery of the ocean. Many even open ocean fish will deposit their eggs in these places. And in and around these coral reefs, it's this nursery that grows all the little fish that then go back out into the ocean. So healthy coral reefs also means healthy ocean. So he's showing us a place that is both critical for the health of the sea and also endangered. Throughout the planet, these ecosystems are threatened, and by bringing this to our attention and the beauty and the swirling diversity in this place, Tony is reminding us of the importance of these systems. Something that I also like about it is that you can kind of get a sense of the behavior of these different schools of fish. So some fish, these ones here, if you look, these fish are kind of here, they're kind of poking down, they're at different angles. They're feeding on the reef and kind of statically doing this. So the angles in these fish here are totally different than these ones here that are in this swirling cloud all through this part of the picture, these little orange fish swirling up into here and down. These ones are picking small microorganisms out of the water column. And others, you get this stream of fish swimming by here, these ones cutting down this way. You're looking at schools of more open water fish that team together and swim together as a group for safety. So you get a little sense of the different behaviors of these different fish. As an artist, there's also several really interesting lessons here. Drawing in this environment has its obvious challenges here. So Tony has come up with an incredible solution to that here. But also, in creating this larger painting, I want to point out a few things as an artist that Tony is doing that I can use in my own art to help me handle similar sorts of challenges. So first notice that you look at this and there's a real sense of depth and space in it. As this stuff back here is like clearly that's far away. You've got these shafts of light coming down, which interestingly enough, he's put in by first putting the paint down and then lifting out some paint to create these shafts of light. If you follow those up, they would all converge in some point way above this painting here, and that's where the sun would be. So you're seeing the sunlight coming down through the water, but notice it's all blues and greens out here. Compare the colors that you see in the top half of the picture with the colors that you see in the bottom half of the picture. Let me show you some decisions that Tony Foster made in painting this, artistic decisions that really make this work, because he's come up with some very interesting solutions to drawing problems. So big problem solving challenge number one is he figured out this whole system for drawing underwater on these sheets of drafting, sort of plasticized drafting film with waxy pencils. But then you're going to take that study and translate it into this larger painting. What does that look like? So first of all, notice that in this big drawing, this big painting here, there's an incredible sense of space and depth. And how does that happen? Why is that? Look at, in the bottom half, at all the colors. See all those beautiful colors? Compare that with the top half of the painting. See, what's going on here is that here, these things are up and close to you. And we get to see all of their true colors. If you're underwater, water scatters, particularly the long wavelength light of these bright colors. So the reds, the yellows, the oranges, those sorts of colors are going to be the ones that are going to fade more quickly. And as you're looking in the background, everything is shades of blue. Those wavelengths of light are still kind of coming through the water. So there's this blue-green filter on the top half of the painting. And it takes incredible restraint. Like once you draw your first little orange and yellow fish, and it's fun to do. You get to use, how often do you get to use bright electric colors like that? This, as an artist, it's fun to do. And it is so incredibly tempting to kind of like, that's bright, that's bright, that's bright, that's bright, I'm having fun, and then bright, 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 all the way back. But what that would do is it would flatten out the picture. Because as you're going further back in space, you're not seeing all of those bright, vivid colors. So he has to be intentional and think about, right, so these ones here, they're close to me, I'm going to pop those colors. These ones right here, they're a little bit further back. I'm going to let those colors be more muted. And even more muted here, even more muted up here. So as he's dropping back in space, he has to use incredible restraint and not use that wonderful palette of tropical fish colors. Another thing that he's doing is he's being really deliberate with where he shows detail. The fish in this painting that are the most detailed are these two right here. So as I look at these, I can see the details around the eye. I can see individual scales on the fish. And as I look back here, these ones back here, all he's done is given you a fish shape and the shape of the highlight and the shape of the shadow in a tone of blue on those fish. Detail in the foreground. The background, he's dropped out all that detail, because that's actually the way we see detail. What a lot of people do is they had so much fun putting the detail here, they'll put it there, they'll put it there, they'll put it there, they'll put it there, they'll put it there. Because you get into drawing this fish, you get into drawing that fish. But if you want something to look the way you really see it, then you have to be very deliberate about where you put that detail. Because where you put the detail, it will pull part of the drawing forward. Where you leave the detail out, it'll push that part of the drawing into the background. And that's what he's done really deliberately here. So some of these fish here are just a silhouette. And he's also kind of on this one here, I want to point out a really interesting decision. So this fish here, if you were to pull it out of the water and put it in your lap, it would have a much brighter belly than this fish that you're seeing right here. But he's drawn this with much of the colors of the water here. So what's happening here? Tony Foster is accurately representing counter shading in fish. So many open water fish have this structure on their body where their belly is going to be really pale and their back is darker. Because on their belly, that's where the shadow is. And on the back, that's where the sunlight is going to be going down. And if you don't want to show up to a predator, you need to camouflage yourself into the water. What the predator might be looking around for is a three-dimensional shape. Oh, there's a shadow on the belly of something. I'm going to go eat that. So if you have a lighter belly where the shadow is and a darker back where the highlight from the sun is going to be, you are then camouflaging yourself in the water column. And that's what we're seeing here. So that this fish, we're kind of getting a little bit of sense of the counter shading with that fish. Something that you notice immediately about this painting is that there's so many different species all crammed into this one little space, both in the types of corals that we're seeing, as well as the species of fish. And this isn't just a sort of fanciful conglomeration of a bunch of different species that one might see there. This is actually a representation of really what you would see were you in this place with Tony. Coral reefs are incredibly biodiverse. There are so many different species there. And this is another reason why they're absolutely fascinating to us as scientists and critical for us as stewards of nature to be ecosystems to protect. Something that I think is really fun about looking at this, so that's sort of biodiversity as a scientist, but let's think about the biodiversity from the perspective of an artist. And look at the behaviors of the different fish. So again, different fish are kind of going different ways. This I mentioned is this swirling mass. These ones nibble, nibble, nibble. But look at these fish kind of slicing through here. Look at this. These dark shapes of fish zooming down like this. These silver ones floating across like that. This little group of fish in here together in a team coming towards you and then turning back into the plane of the picture. So the different groups of fish have different sort of senses of motion and curves and arcs to the school of fish. If you just were to draw them in profile, all the motion, the swirling energy of the coral reef would be lost. But Tony Foster is intentionally, so here this is swimming towards me, a little bit to the side, a little bit more towards the side, and then these ones turning away from me. So just in this little school of fish, there is this arc of motion. And that's deliberately done in different places with different directions, which makes the energy of this painting just come alive. Even this one fish that's right here in the middle of it, if that were done with the tail flat out like this, it would just be a floating fish there. But by tucking that tail in, you get the sense that this fish is making a sharp turn towards you here. And that just puts all these lines of energy. Each one of these little groups of fish is on its own little journey as their own little team. This little group here of these orange fish, here's side view. And again, that's the view of the fish that most people would be comfortable drawing. But look at this sort of brave decision here to turn the back ends of these fish to the viewer. And they are then kind of going down and into the painting, giving it also a greater sense of depth. More detail here on these, less on here. More bright, vivid colors here, less here. And these ones just sort of inviting you into that canvas. Those are the reasons that I particularly love this piece by Tony Foster.